In this one, I'm going to take you through one of the more prominent videos that's available on YouTube about the Felipe Massa court case. And this one's by Formula News Today, and it's had 28,000 views. I'm going to take you through some of the information that's presented on here and let you know which bits are correct and also expose which bits are wrong. I'm hoping that Formula News Today can take on board what I'm saying here and reproduce this themselves so that they can produce a video that is likely to get 28,000 views. This video won't get 28,000 views. This video will struggle to get 1,000, maybe 2,000 views. So please share it, and please show your support of Formula News Today in the hope that they'd be willing to expose the truth. Now, this video gives me grave suspicions that this court case is just a Psy-Op. And I'll show you why. So I'll click on the video, we'll go through it. If there's any adverts appear, they're not due to me, they're ones that appear in this video, and I'll have to skip through them. Let me just zoom this down, click out there.
The legal action initiated by former Formula One driver Felipe Massa against the sport's governing bodies and commercial rights holders represents a significant challenge to the finality of the 2008 World Championship results. The core of the dispute centres on the outcome of the 2008 season, which saw Lewis Hamilton secure the title by a single point over Massa. This narrow margin of victory is central to Massa's claim, as the points lost in a single race, the Singapore Grand Prix, were enough to alter the championship result. The final race in Brazil saw Hamilton secure the necessary fifth-place finish on the final corner of the final lap to clinch the title. This final moment underscores the razor-thin margin that separated the two drivers, making the points lost in Singapore critically important to the overall outcome. Massa's lawsuit, filed in the High Court in London, targets the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, Formula One management.
Buffering.
Chaos and uncertainty are rocking
Let me just
markets,
play this.
but you can still stay calm and prepared.
Skip that.
And former F1 chief executive Bernie Ecclestone. The claim seeks a reported $82 million in damages, asserting that a cover-up by the sport's former leadership regarding the events of the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix cost Massa the championship title. The legal team...
Okay, so the assertion is by Massa's legal team is that the cover-up cost Massa the title. Okay, I'll play this a bit more before getting into it.
The team's focus is on the alleged failure of the governing bodies to act on information they possessed at the time, which they argue constitutes a breach of duty. The case is being closely monitored as it tests the legal limits of challenging historical sporting outcomes.
And this is key. So, yes, the FIA were in breach of their obligations as the governing body of the sport to take action when they became aware that the race had been manipulated, when it had been fixed by Flavio Briatore's plot to crash one of his cars, to hand an advantage to Alonso, to give Alonso the opportunity to win it. Okay, always remember, when we talk about race fixing, okay, the race is still ongoing. So Alonso could have crashed out, he could have suffered mechanical failure, but what they did, they cheated to put him in a position to enable him to win. Okay, so you know, it still didn't guarantee him the win. The situation is, and this is what this is being missed by everywhere, is that an incident took place which caused a safety concern. This particular incident was a staged crash. Alternative incidents could be an organic crash or another safety issue such as debris on the course. It can be, you know, such as a component falling off a car. It could be, which we saw in Singapore, I think it was 2015, it could be a spectator walking down the track. For each of those kind of scenarios, race control will have to do the same thing, which is to deploy the safety car, which is what the FIA did to deal with that staged crash. Now, at the moment in time it happened, nobody realised it was a staged crash. They had to treat it like it was an organic crash. So the FIA respond accordingly, which is what they did. All the teams know that what is being dealt with now is a safety concern. It gets dealt with in accordance with the safety car protocols, the way that we deal with safety issues. We know what's available to us during this safety car procedures, and that is the option to be able to pit or not. That's a choice of each of these teams. Many of those teams made the choice to go and pit. Many of those teams managed their pit stop, whether it's change of tyres, refuelling, and then got back out into that running order and were still competing with the cars around them to compete for points and potentially the win of that race. Massa would have had the opportunity to do that too. Massa would have had the opportunity to pick up points in that race. What impacted that was the unsafe release by Ferrari, which was caused by the fuel rig still being attached to his car when they released him, dragging that fuel rig down the pit lane, and then the Ferrari mechanics had to run down the pit lane and then spend their time yanking it off. That cost Massa time, losing him track position in that safety car period. And then as a result of that unsafe release, the team got a penalty, which is what they do. They penalised the driver in the race for an unsafe release, and he served the penalty for that. Combination of all of that, and combined with Felipe Massa not then driving well, because he was in a car that, yes, was leading the race, so therefore was one of the fastest cars in that field that day, and from being relegated to, say, the back, where the cars around him aren't the fastest cars, he didn't make much headway. He spanned the car. He wasn't driving well at all. I think psychologically it all got to him. The frustration of what was taking place all got to him. So the reason that Massa didn't get points that race, didn't get in the top 8 to get points, was not due to the manufactured incident that caused the deployment of the safety car, because everybody was impacted by that safety car. It was Massa's disadvantage was caused by his own team making the error. Now, what you have to do in such circumstances is you have to, when you find out that a team has cheated by manufacturing a situation to benefit one of their cars, then you have to disqualify the cheats. You have to disqualify the driver who benefited from it, which is Alonso. So you disqualify Alonso from that race. You've got to then fully investigate Fernando's complicity with that. The claim is that he didn't know. Okay, we are not party to that investigation. But what is also true is that the Renault team conspired to do that. That is gross cheating. That is a complete contravention of the FIA International Code that they signed up to. And as such, you get disqualified as a manufacturer from that season. Okay, that is how it works. The FIA, we are now told they found out about that at the Brazilian Grand Prix. What they did was cover up what they found out. Rather than expose to the world, we have now become aware that the Renault team cheated in Singapore. So what we need to do is disqualify Alonso, remove the 10 points from Alonso, which impacts Alonso's position in the Drivers' Championship. 2 drivers then are elevated above Alonso in the Drivers' Championship. We are going to disqualify Renault. 6 teams all impacted, all elevated a position in the Constructors' Championship, and that impacts the prize money that they all receive. But the FIA didn't do that. The other thing that would happen ahead of the Brazilian Grand Prix is that by restructuring then the declared result of the Singapore Grand Prix, everybody shunts up a position. So Rosberg becomes the race winner. Hamilton finishes second, up from third, where he gained from third 6 points, he now gains 8 points. So he gains an extra 2 points for the World Championship. Massa just rises from 13th to 12th. And so the difference to the Drivers' Championship going into that final race of the season is that now, if the FIA had not covered it up and had taken the correct action, not being fraudulent, Lewis Hamilton would have gone into that final race of the season with a lead of 9 points in the Drivers' Championship, meaning that Felipe Massa would have to win that race and hope that Lewis Hamilton finished lower than 7th position. Finishing 8th, lower than 8th, because, lower than 7th. Finishing 8th, Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa would have been level on points, and Massa would have won the championship based on the number of race victories that season. But if Hamilton would have just picked up 2 points, that means essentially you add the 2 points to the 9 he's already ahead, he becomes 11 ahead, and when there's only 10 points available for the race win, Hamilton wins that championship by finishing a minimum of 7th position. They didn't do that. The FIA didn't take the appropriate action. They defrauded the world by not revealing the fact that Renault had defrauded the world. That meant that actually, rather than just requiring 2 points for the World Championship to secure it, Hamilton actually needed 4 points. Hamilton was the guy that was actually disadvantaged by the FIA covering up the Renault fraud. He had to do more to secure that championship. And yet what you have here is it's presented to us that we have a legal expert, Nick DeMarco KC, the leading barrister on sports law, presenting to the world that it was Massa, the one who was disadvantaged. Now, what they're also trying to present is that the race in Singapore should be voided because somebody cheated. That's not how things work. Now, back here, Rubens Barrichello cheated in the Australian Grand Prix, the season opener of the 2008 season. They disqualified him. They didn't void the race. Other competitors still raced. They all raced each other and picked up points for their finishing positions in that race if they finished in the top 8. And all they did is disqualify the person that was in breach of the rules and regulations of the sport. You do not void a race. You think of other competitions such as athletics, even other sporting contests such as football. If a team breaches the rules and regulations, the team gets disqualified from the competition. You cannot have it whereby you impose this notion of somebody's cheated, so we have to void the event, because that opens things to manipulation. You could be in a Formula One race, and for example, it could be, it could be the last race of the season. You go into that race, you are in the lead by 10 points in the championship, and you're not doing very well that race. The person that's in second is on course to beat you in the race, outscore you by such a margin that they're going to overtake you in the championship and win the Drivers' Championship. So somehow you stage some form of cheating in that race, whether you get your second driver to cheat, whether you have a B team and you get one of them to cheat, whether one of the teams that you supply an engine to, you get on the phone to them, you get them to cheat, okay, because this sort of thing can happen. What then happens is, we've discovered cheating, we have to void that event. Oh, who benefits now? Oh, the person whose team has gone, we're not on course to win this, but if we cheat, the event gets voided, and those who beat us, well, that event's now scrapped. So you cannot respond to this by setting a precedent of saying somebody cheated, so we have to void the event. It's quite simple. Now, just to demonstrate as well, you'd strip Fernando Alonso of 10 points. It drops him down to 51 points, elevating Nick Heidfeld up to 5th in that championship and Heikki Kovalainen up to 6th. They are impacted by the fraud. The FIA covered it up, kept Alonso in 5th position, Flavio Briatore is Fernando Alonso's agent. Flavio Briatore would do the negotiations for all the personal sponsorship deals for Fernando Alonso. Isn't it good that Fernando Alonso is still up in this 5th position in the championship? So he didn't suffer any loss, did he, through being relegated? So he was a gainer, wasn't he? Still recorded as being the winner of that Grand Prix. Although Nick Heidfeld, his contract may well have been that he got a bonus for his finishing position in the championship. Likewise with Heikki Kovalainen, they might have been on a contract whereby they got an additional bonus, and based on the number of points they scored in the championship position they finished in. They were artificially finished lower down through not disqualifying, not taking the appropriate action and disqualifying Fernando Alonso. When you go to the Constructors' Championship, similar sort of situation, you have to disqualify Renault from that championship, and that elevates Toyota, Toro Rosso, Red Bull, Williams, Honda and Force India. We're doing away with Super Aguri Honda, but those 6 teams all will have been elevated in that championship table, all then getting probably somewhere in the region of an extra £10 million in prize money. Each of the employees from those teams missed out on bonus monies that is probably linked to the prize money that the sport gives out based on their finishing positions. All of those employees have suffered financial loss as a result of the FIA defrauding everybody. Now, is Nick DeMarco identifying any of that? No, he isn't. But what he is, he's casting doubt on Lewis Hamilton's achievement and the validity of that. Who is that harming, Nick DeMarco? Is that harming Lewis Hamilton? Is that casting a shadow over his first World Championship? Casting a shadow over his accomplishment? Does that impact Lewis Hamilton and the public perception of him? Does that impact Lewis Hamilton financially, commercially, Nick? The expert in law will carry on with going through this video, and we'll see how what I'm saying about this is why I think this is a Psy-Op.
Monitored as it tests the legal limits of challenging historical sporting outcomes.
Tests the legal limits of challenging historical sporting outcomes. Let's just go back and listen to that bit again.
The alleged failure of the governing bodies to act on information they possessed at the time, which they argue constitutes a breach of duty. The case...
Yes, absolutely right. The FIA had a duty to do the right thing, to carry out an investigation, okay, and to disqualify Alonso, disqualify Renault. They didn't. They covered it up. They went into that final race of the season, ensuring that nobody was made aware of it, that Hamilton still had to get a minimum of 4 points as opposed to a minimum of 2 points. And they did that. Well, was it just to disadvantage Hamilton? Was it actually a bigger reason to protect the financial interests of the sport, to not harm the image of the sport, which would harm the financial value of it, based on the fact that certain people or certain companies that would want to associate themselves with the sport might want to disassociate themselves with the sport if it's shown to be so corrupt. Oh, that harms the financial value of the sport, the revenue it can generate due to the sponsorship. Those people willing to put money into the sport so that they can have their brand associated with the sport, who wouldn't want to be associated with such cheating. So yes, the FIA, influenced by Bernie Ecclestone, covered it up. But this is what the FIA are trying to do.
Is being closely monitored as it tests the legal limits of challenging historical sporting outcomes.
Tests the legal limits of challenging historical sporting outcomes. So is this being put forward as a case to set a precedent to test whether or not historical sporting outcomes can be challenged. So if Massa doesn't win the case and they just throw the case out and they decide, oh, we don't want such silly cases as this, we are going to set the rule that the legal precedent that this is just, that it's not in the public interest for this sort of thing, that legally you're not allowed to challenge historic sporting outcomes. Test the legal limits. Now, what's law and what's legal and what's justice? Because we're led to believe our legal system is there to achieve justice. Who's putting the timescale on justice? Who is saying, oh, well, if you haven't found us out for committing the crime by now, then it's too late and there's nothing you can do? Is that justice? Because if you've discovered something's wrong, because it's now been revealed that they did something that was fraudulent, who made the rule that, oh, there's nothing you can now do? Who made the law that, oh, now, if you've gotten away with it for this long, there's nothing that we can now do? Who made that law? Which judge made that law? Which learned legal scholar made that law? That's a tool of manipulation, isn't it? We are here to seek justice. Who has put in a so-called law to prevent justice, to absolve the perpetrators from being subject to consequence for their crime? Understand that this legal construct is not to achieve justice. It is to protect commerce, to protect the financial interests. It is a corrupt judge who will set a time limit for when a criminal fraud can now be overturned, can now be held accountable for their crime. For them fraudulent entities to be liable to compensate those who they defrauded, those who they impacted. But look at the way this video is. Listen to what is being said.
They argue constitutes a breach of duty. The case is being closely monitored as it tests the legal limits of challenging historical sporting outcome.
Tests the legal limits of challenging historical sporting outcome. Because most people, they won't break it down like that, will they? What are we doing? Are we seeking justice? Have we got a court case to try and seek justice? Oh, we're testing the legal limits of challenging historical sporting outcomes. Ooh, what's that all about? No, quite simply, we need to drill down to the concept of justice. Okay? What is the situation? What is right? What is wrong? Well, we've now found out the situation because of what has been revealed by Bernie Ecclestone, and there should be evidence of this. Where is the evidence? There is supposed to be an interview given by Bernie Ecclestone to, is it the Bild newspaper or magazine, whatever it is in Germany. So where is that? Where is the evidence? Where's the audio recording of that interview? And where is the written evidence of Ecclestone actually disclosing that he was aware of it? He and Mosley were aware of the Renault cheating at Singapore, and he was aware of that in that 2008 season, supposedly at that Brazilian Grand Prix weekend. That evidence should exist. Where is it? If you can find it, please post a link to it in this comment section of this video. So, we are now aware, according to disclosures made by Bernie Ecclestone, that there should be a record of, that he now claims he's forgotten about, that they're aware of the Renault cheating. The FIA did nothing but try to cover it up. They tried to protect the image of the sport, the financial interests of the sport by covering up. In doing so, What they did, that was defrauding everybody, defrauding the world. It wasn't impacting Massa, because what you don't do is you do not just void the event. You disqualify the cheats and modify the result, and then you amend the World Championship table. They didn't do that. Rather than Lewis Hamilton now be ahead in that championship going into that final race by 9 points, he's only ahead by 7 points. So actually it benefits Massa. This legal expert is presenting that Massa was disadvantaged, and Heifeld, Kovalainen were lower in that table than they should have been. 6 teams impacted. The other thing that took place then is, as a result of what took place in Brazil, which shouldn't have actually led to what it did, but because of the final lap drama in Brazil, where Hamilton was able to overtake Timo Glock on that last lap, Timo Glock then received death threats. A man received death threats. His family received threats as a result of these fanatics that exist. Now, that's not right, but the sport knows that this kind of dynamic happens, and it has a duty of care to protect the people within the sport from that by acting with integrity itself. Our legal expert, Nick DeMarco, wasn't able to identify that dynamic. He has to project Massa as being the victim of this situation, when actually Massa was the victim of his team's incompetence during that safety car period. Massa was actually the beneficiary of FIA fraud in covering it up, needing to only overturn a 7-point deficit in that championship rather than a 9-point deficit. DeMarco is presenting the opposite of truth. This is a King's Counsel so-called legal expert barrister presenting to the court a fraud, the opposite of the truth, an argument that can be destroyed, as I am destroying it right now. Why would you do such a thing if you are an expert? You're either not an expert and therefore being fraudulent by presenting yourself to the world as an expert, or you are bringing this case fraudulently because the case is a Psy-Op presented to us as in some proper official legal argument, right, which is going to result in Massa'S case being dismissed and the notion of being able to challenge historic sporting results as being no longer allowed because it's a spurious case, and this legal precedent due to this case being thrown out, meaning that future anything else can no longer be challenged. Oh, that helps them prevent a legal challenge about Abu Dhabi 2021, doesn't it, Nick? Who are you really representing, Nick? Are you an agent, Nick? Who are you really representing? Can we check your financial records, please, Nick? What's going on, Nick? Can we check Felipe Massa's financial records? What's going on? Who's a pawn in this game? Let's listen to the video.
The foundation of the legal challenge is the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, an event that later became known as the Crashgate scandal. The race was marred by a deliberate incident involving the Renault team, which forms the basis of Massa'S claim of an unfair championship outcome. On lap 14 of the race, Renault driver Nelson Piquet Jr. intentionally crashed his car into the wall at turn 17.
Okay, which he then revealed in 2009 when they sacked him. The situation is, yes, the crash was intentional, but what do the FIA do? Whether it was intentional or not, they still do the same thing. Whether it was an organic crash, whether it was a man walking down the track, whether it's a dog on the track, whether it's somebody's front wing had fallen off their car because there'd been a little coming together of drivers and there's now debris on the track. What do the FIA do? Well, they deal with the situation as they see that situation. They identify that, oh, something has happened here that is a safety concern. There's a car that's crashed. What do? We have to make things safe so that that car gets recovered. It's safe for the drivers competing, okay? Because otherwise they could crash into that and die. We need to recover that. We need to clear the debris. We need to do it under safe conditions. Deploy the safety car. All teams see what's going on. All teams know what needs to happen in a safety car. It affects all teams. Yes, that season they'd got some bullshit going on with regard to the notion of the pit lane being closed, and if you had to pit for fuel because your strategy was such that you planned to come in and around that time for refueling, but now the pit lane's closed, and if you do go into the pits, you get a penalty for doing so. See, that was just badly thought through, okay? But that was just part of their regulations that all the teams accepted and signed up to. They should have identified that as being an issue at the time. But the reality is, and the things that we need to focus on are that everybody's aware of what is now taking place. There's an incident, we deploy the safety car, this is the protocol, and some of the teams then choose to bring those drivers in for a pit stop. Many teams did. Many teams performed them pit stops fine, went back onto the track, continued in that race, competed for that race win, and competed for positions for points in that race. The only reason that Massa didn't do that was because Ferrari messed up, and that made Massa incur a penalty, combination of both things. Massa then psychologically lost it. You could understand Massa's frustration, but he didn't hold himself together to drive through the slower cars and try to salvage what he could from that race. Didn't perform well enough. Combination of it. But it's not the fault of the FIA in the moment. And that is clear. And what you don't then do is go, oh, we found out that this situation created wasn't organic, so therefore we cancel the race. Somebody walking onto a track isn't organic, is it? Who's to say that a team pays somebody to walk onto the track to cause the deployment of the safety car, to enable their competitor to catch up with somebody that they are competing against? Who's to say that that isn't an underlying motive when we saw, I think in 2015, could be 16, a person walking down the track? Oh, the story we're giving it, oh, it was just a crazy person. What's the truth? Did they get sacked? Did they then reveal the truth like it took PK Jr. all that time and that to reveal the truth when something happened to him? But if somebody just got paid off, they're never going to say, are they? So we can't decide, oh, is this authentic or not? You just have to respond to what's going on. All teams had to respond to what's going on. Deal with it in the manner that you deal with these things. This is why the regulations are written, so that whatever the incident, this is how we deal with it. That's what you do. So, and like I say, it didn't disrupt the race in such a manner that racing could not continue and those other competitors in that race could not still be competing in that race. The skew was that Alonso, who benefited from that, gets disqualified from it. We'll carry on.
This action was later proven to have been carried out under the instruction of his team principal, Flavio Briatore, and chief engineer Pat Simons. The explicit purpose of the crash was to trigger a safety car period, which would strategically benefit Piquet's teammate. Piquet's teammate, Fernando Alonso, had made an early pit stop just before the crash. The safety car deployment allowed Alonso to cycle to the front of the field as other cars pitted under the safety car conditions. Felipe Massa was leading the race at the time of the incident. The safety car period forced him to pit.
The safety car period did not force him to pit. Okay, that's a choice. You weren't forced to do it. By not doing it, you wouldn't have taken advantage of it. You'd have probably then left yourself at a disadvantage to everybody else. But you're not made to do it. It's still a decision. It's the right decision to pit, but it's not forcing you.
And during the stop, the Ferrari team made a critical error, releasing him with the fuel hose still attached.
There you go. The Ferrari team made the error. Nobody forced them to make an error.
This mistake resulted in a drive-through penalty, causing Massa to finish the race outside the points in 13th.
Well, there you go. The error of the amount of time lost in that pit stop, because when you go back and watch that race, Massa had to come to a standstill at the end of the pit lane. He was there left waiting for a period of time, and then the mechanics had to run down to the end of the pit lane, and they had to start yanking away on this fuel rig, which didn't release immediately. That took some time as well, and it was only after all that time lost that Massa is then released back in. Many cars had streamed by him then. Then, rightfully so, he got a penalty for an unsafe release. That is an unsafe release by that team. You've released that car in an unsafe condition. It's got stuff attached to it that shouldn't be attached to it. Dragging along the fuel hose. That you get penalised for.
Position. The loss of points from this race is the direct link to the championship outcome.
Yes, potentially that is a direct link to the points in the championship outcome. You lost points. Had you have got points, you'd have had more for your season-long tally. That would have impacted. But the same can be said of many things. We can just scroll back up to the season-long results here. We can identify that, had Lewis Hamilton not retired here, had he not have finished 10th there, had he not have finished 13th there, he'd have got more points. Had Felipe Massa not have retired, had he not have retired, had he finished higher than 13th, had he finished higher, he'd have got more points. He didn't. There's reasons why they didn't. And this is the reason why he didn't there. What about this one in Belgium, where Lewis Hamilton was third? Lewis Hamilton was third, and go and research the penalty that the FIA gave Lewis Hamilton. Was that the reason that Lewis Hamilton only got 6 points that race as opposed to 10? That changes things as well, doesn't it? We can look at that if you want to really scrutinise everything like that. But anyway, we'll just carry on.
The difference between winning the title and finishing second was a single point. Had the results of the Singapore Grand Prix...
With our...
Sorry, another ad.
Sprint delivery service, we can get this over to them in as little as 20 minutes. No?
Prix been annulled, which Massa'S team argues should have happened under the rules.
Had the results for the Grand Prix been annulled, which Massa'S legal team argue should have happened under the rules? Nick DeMarco, KC. Show me which rule states that Grand Prix, the results of it should have been annulled. Identify Nick as a legal expert, somebody who understands the notion of sport, and therefore what the problem is with sport manipulation and how you could use such a precedent of annulling a result like that could result in manipulation. Yes, Nick, as I've described. Can you tell us where in the rules it says that result should be annulled? Why are you presenting it that way, our legal expert? Who are you working for, Nick? Are you purposefully trying to destroy this case by presenting a case which has got that many holes in it? It's going to lose. This is our supposed expert. Who are you working for, Nick? This is our King's Counsel barrister, putting on a facade. Just going to rewind this.
Title and finishing second was a single point. Had the results of the Singapore Grand Prix been annulled, which Massa'S team argues should have happened under the rules?
Massa'S team argue under the rules that should have been annulled. Show us those rules. Okay? Our human rights, Nick, because you know about human rights, is access to a transparent justice system. Okay, I need you, Nick DeMarco, to be transparent and communicate to the world your legal grounds for saying such a thing. And then what we'll do is legally argue the merits of those legal grounds. And I think you'll find, Nick, that my legal argument will destroy yours, even though you're the expert. Because as I've said, it opens up the scope for manipulation. If it becomes a thing whereby, oh, somebody's cheated, that means that that result is annulled. That's the legal precedent made here, so that's what we do. One judge has decided that in this case, that's what we do, so now every time it happens, that's what we do. No, because people will exploit that, take advantage of that, won't they, Nick? Do you understand the implications of that, Nick? Because you see, law exists in context, not in a vacuum. You have to apply context, Nick. And what is law for, Nick? Is it for justice? Are we seeking justice here? Or are we seeking legal, the gaslighting of people to win an argument for money, okay, irrespective of whether it achieves justice or not, Nick? Let me know what you think, Nick, our legal expert. Yes, we understand what legal is, Nick. Taking on somebody's argument for money, okay, irrespective of what you're arguing for, achieving justice or not. But no, you'll construct an argument relying on falsehoods, the opposite of truth, to present, to gaslight in this facade of legal for a corrupt outcome, as long as you're being paid enough money to do so. Is that right, Nick? Is that right? Evidently that's the case. What's the purpose? Why are you throwing this case, Nick? Why are you presenting to the world, gaslighting to the world, that, oh, this is a complex legal case here that could set a precedent, that you are just throwing? Because there is no case here. Massa wasn't impacted. If anything, Massa benefited. But you're claiming money for Massa, aren't you? Who was impacted, Nick? Oh, well, a man received, and his family received, death threats. That wouldn't have happened if Hamilton only needed 2 points that race. The overtaking of Timo Glock on that last lap wouldn't have been a problem. Yes, it just would have meant that he got a few more points, but he was already in a position where he won the championship. Nobody would have been getting that excited. Oh, it's the drama, isn't it, Nick? That's what they want. They wanted to keep the drama going for everybody. But as a result of their fraud, a man received death threats. Why aren't you representing him, Nick? Why aren't you representing Nick Heidfeld and Heikki Kovalainen, who may have lost out on their contracts, money on their contracts, affecting their future earnings, affecting their future contracts? Why aren't you representing the people who really lost, Nick? Why aren't you representing the 6,000 employees in those 6 teams who all would have lost out on bonus money as a result of this fraud, Nick? Instead, why are you putting forward a case that should absolutely be destroyed and thrown out of court because it's entirely false, setting the precedent that historic results should no longer be challenged legally? Is that what you're doing, Nick? The Psy-Op, Nick. The Psy-Op. This is criminal behaviour, Nick. This is a miscarriage of justice, isn't it, Nick? You are seeking to pervert the course of justice, Nick, aren't you? What's your defence, Nick? Are you going to do a Bernie Ecclestone and just go, oh, I forgot. Or now, having declared yourself as an expert, are you just going to have to rely on the incompetence card now? Sorry, actually, I'm just not good enough. I just, like Michael Massey, also made just a human error. Yes, no, that's called a grave error of judgment. That's being a fraudulent criminal, Nick. Conspiracy to defraud. Conspiracy to act in the interests of a corrupt party seeking to protect itself from consequence of defrauding the globe. And do so through the utilisation of the British legal system. Oh, well, what does that do? That brings the notion of law into disrepute, doesn't it, Nick? That destroys confidence in the British legal system, doesn't it, Nick? That's what you are guilty of, aren't you, Nick? A contempt of court. A contempt for justice. Nick. Destroying. Oh, no, it won't destroy public opinion, Nick, because nobody will get to find out, will they, Nick? Because the media won't tell people, will they, Nick? You'll be protected by the establishment, won't you, Nick? Yeah, because nobody will find out, because the media won't reveal it. So we'll keep it quiet, because it's not in the public interests to show the public that the entire system is corrupt. Can you talk us through the qualifications of the person judging this, Nick? What are they going to do? Are they going to see what's going on here? Are they going to understand that you're corrupt, Nick, and then hold you to account for it? Or are they just going to brush this under the carpet and everybody carries on? Nobody checks your bank balance, Nick. And it's all good, isn't it, Nick? Carry on.
Massa would have been the 2008 world champion. The annulment of the race results is the specific remedy sought by Massa'S legal team. The scandal was officially exposed in 2009, leading to sanctions against the Renault team, including the disqualification of the team and lifetime bans for Briatore and Simons.
Man with a track record. Go through the Senders documentary where when Briatore was head of the Benetton team and they believed he'd got some sort of traction control device on the Benetton benefiting Schumacher. Oh, Briatore. Oh, yeah, the software was found on the car, but we didn't use that. Yeah, we can trust the integrity of these people, can't we?
However, the FIA did not annul the race results, citing the
because you shouldn't. What were they citing?
long-standing legal principle that
citing the legal principle that
championship results are considered final after
that championship results are considered final. Okay. Who created that legal principle? Is that the FIA with their own court system? Oh, we make our own rules and we have our own courts. Are we all allowed to make our own rules for ourselves and have our own court for ourselves to hold ourselves to account for what we do? No, you can't hold me to account because only my own court can hold me to account for what I do. Is that what your legal precedent is? Yeah? No. There's one of the greatest athletes of all time, a certain Usain Bolt, once held 9 Olympic gold medals, the triple. Gold in the 100-meter sprint, the 200-meter sprint, and the 4x100-meter sprint event, relay, at 3 consecutive Olympic Games. Beijing, London, and Rio, Brazil. I'm pretty sure they're the 3, in 2008, 2012, 2016. Held 9 golds at one stage. He now only holds 8. There's a reason for that. They stripped him of one of those titles because it turned out one of his teammates, I think it was Nestor Carter in the relay team, was found to have taken drugs failed a drug test. So they disqualified that team because that team is found to have been in breach of rules and regulations of the sport. Is the legal precedent that once we've given out the result, we don't change the result? No, that's not how it is. If it is found out that you have breached the rules and regulations, committed a crime in this manner, then there is a consequence. Oh, we want to set a legal precedent whereby once you've stolen something, well, you've stolen something now, and 6 months have passed, so there's nothing we can do. Well, who would set that law? Who would make that rule? Who wants to protect who by the creation of such a rule? Are we looking for rules for justice? Or are we looking at legal tools? What's that? Oh, a tool for manipulation. A tool to be used to protect the interests of commerce, the financial interests. Legal for money, everybody. Legal. Is it justice we're looking for? You see, we're supposed to have criminal law, which is to hold perpetrators of crime to account. Sadly, the expensive lawyers tend to work in civil litigation, whereby the money is attached. Money, yeah, bigger money. So those that with the that can do the mental gymnastics, that can pick this law or that law or this law or that law, or there's this law or this precedent set by this judge in this case, so this becomes the law, everybody. And so they play the game, and they twist and turn and try to tie everybody in knots with confusion and gaslighting and legal, rather than simply say what has taken place here is a fraud. Renault perpetrated a fraud. The FIA perpetrated a fraud. We are now aware of their fraud. We became aware of their fraud with the evidence of the interview that Bernie Ecclestone gave to this publication. There should be an audio recording of that. There should be the documents produced. And if Bernie claims he doesn't remember, well, how's about the evidence, Bernie, of you now disclosing that you were aware of this, and then the FIA did nothing about it? Doing nothing about it is a breach of their duty of care. By breaching their duty of care, this is the impact it has had. It caused a man to receive death threats, caused a man's family to receive death threats. It made the job of winning his first championship for Lewis Hamilton harder. It protected the image of the sport for Bernie's financial interests and the interests of Formula One financial interests. The investment company, I think it's CVC Investment of Luxembourg, who had bought a share of this from Bernie, a controlling share from Bernie apparently, protects the financial interest. Legal commerce, everybody. It's all about money. It's not about justice. It's about legal. Yes. Constructing corrupt arguments to gaslight a population for money. That's criminal. That is fraud. Or is it just incompetence, Nick? Considering you are the world's best at this, apparently, Nick. And if that is the competence of the world's best, what is going on there? What is going on there? People lost out. People suffered financial loss. Highfield, Kovalainen, 6,000 employees of 6 Formula One teams. Who's representing them? Who's compensating them? Who's paying them damages? Why can't our legal expert represent any of that in his case? Somebody is now being harmed as well. There's a guy who is the globe's most marketable athlete now being undermined by Nick DeMarco, KC, our legal expert. Do you know the implications of when you seek to discredit somebody illegally, Nick? Do you know the implications of that? Do you know what it is if you've caused somebody financial harm, Nick? Do you understand what the law says about that? When it, because when we're talking about money, Nick, this is what the legal system is for, isn't it? The protection of money. What happens if you've harmed somebody's money, Nick, through the case that you're presenting fraudulently, Nick? What about that? What about that, Nick? Let's look into that in a future video. Anyway, back to this.
Season-ending prize-giving ceremony. This principle of finality is the central point of contention in the...
The principle of finality is the central point of contention. And there you go. The principle of finality. Can we have a case? Can we project this facade of a legal case to establish the principle of finality? And if that then is made the law by the British court, then that becomes the law, the principle of finality. Yes, the principle of finality is that Abu Dhabi can't be changed now. There's nothing you can do. Is that what you're seeking to do, Nick DeMarco, KC? Is that what you're an agent to do, Nick DeMarco, KC? The best sports lawyer in the world that's presented a case for poor Felipe Massa that's been gassed up. Oh yeah, Felipe, we'll get you 64 million, Felipe. Yeah, we'll be all right. We won't make you a laughing stock, Felipe. We won't make you a laughing stock to all the troll boys who are just going to be laughing at you and making memes of you when your case gets thrown out of court. No, it's all right, Felipe. We've got this. Oh no, the court's just thrown it out, and he set the precedent, the legal precedent that actually the principle of finality. Nobody can challenge the final standings after the prize has been given out at the end of the season. Why is that? Because your case is so weak, Nick. So contrived, so fraudulent to enable them to set that legal precedent, that rule to protect who, Nick? Because again, we're talking about justice, are we not? Just Abu Dhabi 2021 was a contrivance. The contrivance of the media gaslighting the population to suggest that you don't have to release lapped cars. That's normally on a wet day. And if they do, how long will they wait? Martin Brundle was repeating that. That's all a lie, Nick. Because the situation is this sport is a sport. That's what they sell it to us as, Nick. Now they're claiming, oh, we see it in our legal court. It's just entertainment. No, it's a sport. It's broadcast on SkySports. Okay, it's reported about in the sports section, BBC Sport. Yeah, so it's a sport. That's what you sell it to people as. Okay, that's what you market it as. So therefore, you are mis-selling if you're now claiming it's something other than sport. There'll be a legal challenge for that. Yeah, and there's rules and regulations when you have to stop that sport to deal with a safety issue. In order to restart that sport, you have to restore the restart conditions for everybody. They didn't do that to set it up for somebody to win it. That's a breach of them FIA regulations that the FIA themselves then covered up again, and all media covered it up again, and all competitors covered it up again. Did you think to take that on for justice, Nick DeMarco? Did you think that there would be a legal case against the FIA, for justice for that case, Nick DeMarco? Or are they not paying you to do that, Nick? Who's paying you, Nick? Who's paying? I mean, like I say, you can clear this up, Nick. Full disclosure, transparent justice system. You know, we're all entitled to that as a human right. The 108.7 million people that were defrauded by the global fraud, the in excess of 100,000 people that have signed the petition in the UK seeking for UK Parliament to intervene because of the injustice that took place where we were defrauded. Yeah, that one, Nick. Are you concerned about that, Nick? I am. Are you? You know, our legal professional who, you know, took a law degree because he was so concerned and wanted to stand for justice in this world. So chose a law degree. That's admirable of you, Nick. Admirable that you were so concerned about justice that you decided to go into the profession of law. Yes, thank you for that, Nick.
Current lawsuit. Massa'S legal argument is based on the assertion.
Legal argument. Law, justice. Who creates law that prevents justice being done? Why would such a person create a law that stands in the way of a just outcome, that absolves perpetrators of consequence for their crime? Who sets a time limit? Oh, well, that would be judges and legal scholars. What is their motive? Oh, you won't understand. You're not a legal scholar. No, these are people who manipulate. These are people who become part of the establishment, who protect the financial interests of the wealthy. Oh, it's legal, everyone, and we've given to you the gift of law and the legal system for your protection. We call it His Majesty's Courts and Tribunals Service for Justice, under the banner of the Ministry of Justice, and it's legal to protect the interests of the financial. That's all it is.
That the FIA and FOM were aware of the deliberate nature of the crash during the 2008 season, but chose to conceal the information from the...
Yeah, defrauded us to protect the financial interests. Maybe billionaire Bernie wanted to also try and skew the championship, making it harder for Lewis Hamilton to win it, making him require 4 points to guarantee it him rather than just requiring 2 points. Maybe it was that.
Public and the competitors. The lawsuit was directly triggered by a 2023 interview.
It's not my ad, this is the ad of theirs. I'll play it through.
Jump in the line.
In which former F1 boss Bernie Ecclestone stated that he and former FIA president Max Mosley knew about the incident during the 2008 season, but decided not to act. Ecclestone's public comments provided the basis for Massa'S legal team to argue that new evidence had emerged.
Yes, the basis for the legal team. Well, that's true. That evidence has emerged. Let's see the evidence. Let's hear the recording of the interview. Let's see what was published. That should exist. And as I say, if you've got access to it, if you can find it, please post a link. I'd like to post it on this channel because I am trying to make this clear and transparent to everybody to demonstrate that what we are presented with is a fraud, and I believe it to be a Psy-Op. I believe it to be a presentation to the world to convince us of, oh, this is happening now, and now we're going to make a legal precedent of this notion of finality. Once the prizes for the season have been handed out, the results can't be challenged. Oh, because this is what rule we're going to now set for ourselves so that we cannot be held accountable for fraud. Nothing you can do now. Yes, it turns out that Abu Dhabi was a fraud, but yeah, there's nothing you can do about it now because that's what the law says, because a judge has decided that it's the judge there for justice. You know, this facade of a courtroom with this balancing scales that's supposed to represent justice, but what's on them scales? Is it money? Is it money that's on the scales? Or is it what's right or what's wrong? Because really, they wouldn't be balanced if it was what was right and what was wrong, would it? Because what's right would be right in the air, and what was wrong would be like the side of the scales that was down on the floor. So what does Lady Justice actually represent? With a blindfold and a sword, what does Lady Justice represent? And the scales, the balancing scales of justice. Is it a balanced thing? Is it right and wrong? Is that a balance between right and wrong? Is that a compromise between right and wrong? Or is it right being up here and wrong being down there? Justice, everybody. What's justice? Legally, Nick, tell us legally, Nick, you know, the expert of the law. Can you explain to us justice? Can you explain to us the fundamental principle and purpose of what law should be, and what the bastardization of legal actually is, Nick? Can you explain that to everyone? Because the population really is entitled to a clear and transparent system for justice, and that's not what it is, Nick. You see, you're part of a system that's lied to everybody about what it actually is doing, aren't you, Nick? Aren't you, Nick?
Allowing them to challenge the finality of the results. Massa'S lawyers claim that the FIA breached its own regulations, specifically those governing the prompt investigation of serious incidents.
Absolutely right. They did breach that. They did breach that. So they're guilty of that.
By failing to act immediately on the information they possessed. This failure, they argue, constitutes a breach of contract.
Yes, that is a breach of contract. Okay, let's carry on with what you're saying.
And a breach of duty of care to the competitors.
Yes, you have breached that duty of care to the competitors. Yeah, you've exposed those competitors. You exposed Timo Glock to the dynamics that he experienced, death threats, through concealing your fraud, by concealing a fraud within the sport. You acting fraudulently in doing so. You've exposed these competitors of that sport to that dynamic from fanatical fans. You've exposed Felipe Massa to heartache, when really, had the situation been made clear, cheats been taking place in that race. We've had to rejig the order now. Hamilton's now got 8 points as opposed to 6th, which has changed the championship to this. So now, Massa, when we go into the final race of the season, you're 9 points behind. You've got to win and hope Hamilton finishes lower than 7th. Okay? Massa crosses the line. He's not going to start celebrating, is he? His dad and his brother in the pits, they're going to be fingers crossed that Hamilton finishes lower than 7th, but they'll see that he's currently in 6th, and they'll go, no, he's doing enough. They're not going to start jumping around and celebrating, are they? You've exposed them to that. You've exposed the drivers to lower finishing positions, expose their contracts, make them lose out, expose the teams to have lost out financially. What impact did that have on people's lives? Did people have to make certain redundancies because they didn't have the money to pay salaries? What's happened to those people? What's happened to people's lives where they might have been then in financial hardship and didn't have money? Where have those people's lives gone? How many of them people are still with us that missed out on that during their life? Is the law to try and protect people, or is it legal to protect Bernie and the FIA and the show of the sport that make the billions out of defrauding everybody? We put on the show, everybody. Look at this, everybody. This is the best you've ever seen, everybody. Keep paying your money, everybody. Yay! You're protecting them, aren't you? You're not protecting us from being defrauded by them. And many don't realise that they're being defrauded. They need someone to protect them, to teach them. What are you doing, Nick? Whose side are you on, Nick?
The legal team alleges that the governing bodies and individuals deliberately conspired together to conceal the truth, which
Yes, they did.
directly impacted the championship outcome and Massa'S.
It directly impacted the championship outcome. It did, but it didn't impact Massa. The impact on the championship outcome was such that Fernando Alonso should have been stripped of those 10 points for the Singapore Grand Prix. There is an argument to disqualify him from the entire season. But even if you apply the minimum of disqualifying him from Singapore, it drops him down to 51 points, elevating Heifeld and Kovalainen in that championship. That did affect the championship. It affected the Constructors' Championship by not disqualifying Renault. That should have elevated each of those teams, awarding each of those teams an additional £10 million in prize money that you didn't award them, leaving over a final for 10th place pot of prize money that could have been divided between all teams. Because here's the extra prize money that would have been there for the 10th team, but that team, we've disqualified one now, so we've got an extra lump of money. And that lump of money is reserved to be allocated in prize money, so that now gets distributed about through the competitors. All teams have lost out now, haven't they? Through to the FIA corruption.
Massa'S career. The claim which directly impacted the championship outcome and Massa'S career.
No, because you didn't score points in Singapore. That was due to Ferrari team. That was due to the penalty you then awarded, which was a valid penalty. That was then due to your driving. That was why you didn't score points in Singapore. Other drivers were subjected to the same conditions and they still scored points. You didn't score points because of what unfolded, which was your team releasing you in an unsafe condition, losing you time, and your subsequent response to that. That affected whether or not you won the championship. That affected your future earnings, your future sponsorship deals.
The claim is focused on the actions of the governing bodies and their former leaders, not on the drivers involved in the championship battle.
And it's such a weak case, it's a corrupt case, that it, by rights, should be completely thrown out of court, which then may well result in a corrupt judge then setting the legal precedent of this notion of finality and it now becoming unable to challenge the results of the season after the prize giving ceremony, and that now setting stone as legal precedent.
The defendants, F1, the FIA and Bernie Ecclestone, have mounted a robust defence seeking to have the case.
A robust defence, everybody. It's the defence, and theirs is robust, everybody. Yes, Psy-Op. It's all about how good their defence is, isn't it? It's not a very good attack, is it?
Dismissed before it reaches a full trial. Their primary argument is that the claim is time-barred, meaning
it's out of time to hold us to account for our crimes, because a judge in the past has once ruled that he's not going to hold somebody account for their crimes because it's now too late, so I'm going to let them off. Why did that judge do that? Why did that judge not act in the interests of justice and just absolve a perpetrator of their crime? Oh, but that set a legal precedent, everybody, which is now the law. This is how we do it in the integrity of the British legal system. The legal scholars have all sat round and discussed this and all agree with one another that this is now the law, everybody.
The legal time limit for challenging the 2008 results has long expired. They argue that the principle of finality.
And this is it, argue. We have the legal process, the adversarial process, whereby you present your argument, they counter your argument, you counter their argument, it becomes an argument, and then we have a judge who decides who wins the argument. Rather than, quite simply, you do an investigation, you establish the facts. What are the facts here? Well, somebody's disclosed that they were made to crash their car. Yes. Nelson Piquet Jr. disclosed that. Then there was a process of finding that Flavio Briatore had instructed him to do that. That's the truth. It's not an allegation. It happened. Flavio Briatore was then banned from the sport. You'd have thought he'd have fought like hell if he was not guilty, wouldn't you? No, so he was guilty of that. So that happened. And then we've got Bernie the billionaire reveals, yeah, we did know about that. Oh, so you knew about that and you covered it up. That's not an allegation. That now becomes a fact because you've disclosed that that's what you knew. So that happened. What are the implications of what took place? You covering up that crime. Oh, you've done it to benefit yourself financially so that your financial interests aren't harmed. In doing so, you've made it more difficult for Lewis Hamilton to win. In doing so, you've neglected the financial impact it's had on drivers in that championship, in teams in that championship. In doing so, you've subjected to one of those drivers to the notion that they received death threats, them and their family, as part of your fraud. That is what has happened. I'm not going to argue with anybody about this. That is the facts of the situation. Every single one of those things that I've just said happened. It's not an argument. It's not an argument. So how come legal is a back and forth? It's not, is it? It's a presentation of facts. Oh, but we now need to say what the law says about these facts and which law we need to apply to the facts to determine what we do here. No, quite simply, you say, well, that's clearly all wrong. What is justice? What is justice? Well, what we need to do is we need to compensate the harmed parties here and we need to punish the perpetrators here. Who are the harmed parties? Timo Glock, Heifeld, Kovalainen, the 6 teams and their employees who all received probably £10 million less that season, which would have contributed to their bonuses. All teams that would have got an additional share of that prize money that was left over, having disqualified Renault, impacting all of those employees of all of those teams for their bonuses. They're the people who are harmed by this. So that's what we do. We make it right. We get justice. It's not about legal. Oh, what does legal say about this? Oh, you need to be a lawyer to do this. So what we actually need to do is crash the British justice system down because it is all bollocks, everybody. All bollocks. We need to take them cunts on, wearing their wigs, who want to project themselves as all knowledgeable, who are serving the interests of the establishment, protecting commerce, protecting wealth, the controlling financial interests. Understand that.
In championship results, a cornerstone of sporting governance, must be upheld to maintain championship results has long expired. They argue that the principle of finality in
this is the key here. This is why it's a Psy-Op. The FIA, their lawyers, have brought to court the principle of finality. Once we've declared something, it should no longer be challenged. That's called tyranny. That's a corrupt ruler saying, I'm doing this and you can't challenge it. And we refer to that as the principle of finality because we need to present that as a reason for integrity. Yes, our fundamental integrity, and therefore we need to base this on the principle of finality legally. Oh no, that's a tyrant. not wanting to be held accountable for their corruption. So what do? We create a legal device. We create a law to protect the corrupt. Which judge will create that law? By setting that legal precedent, which then legal scholars will decide, yes, we agree. The learned judge there is absolutely right, because the learned judge there has based his finding on the previous findings of yet another learned judge somewhere else in history when they judged in different circumstances on a different case. Yes, legally, this is solid ground for the decisions that we're making. And in order to appeal this, first you have to appeal to permission to the judge for permission to appeal, and then your appeal is heard by 3 other judges, and then they decide whether you get a retrial or not. Yes, and then you have to go through the phase. You have to obviously pay for each of these steps. Don't you worry, little head. Don't you worry, little head.
Championship results.
But the HMCTS, His Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service, they'll corruptly lie about the process as well. They'll pretend that they've informed you of it, and then when you say, no, you've not done anything of the sort, they'll corruptly, fraudulently create a document that they claim to have sent you, that the actual electronics on the document demonstrate it wasn't created until over 2 months after they claim to have sent it to you. But don't you worry your little heads about that. That's just the legal game, everybody.
A cornerstone of sporting governance must be upheld to maintain the integrity and historical record of the sport.
It must be, it's a cornerstone to maintain integrity and historical record, everybody. Oh, look at the language. Psy-Op. It's a cornerstone of integrity. You see, what integrity is to do the right thing, to act honestly and to do the right thing. And in circumstances where things are wrong, integrity is to put them right, to do the right thing. Integrity is not covering it up to maintain an illusion of integrity. But look at how we use language. Oh, integrity, just like legal in a wig. Oh, integrity, just like legal barrister, expert of law. No, integrity is doing the right thing. Standing up for what's right, being just, being fair, not creating devices to excuse people, to prevent people of consequence for their actions, to protect people, to protect criminals from consequence. That's not integrity. Integrity is conducting yourself in the right manner in the first instance. When you discover that something's wrong, dealing with it in the right manner, to do the right thing by everybody, most of all those that are harmed by the situation. That's integrity. And it's apologising. It's holding your hand up and saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's our responsibility to do this. Something has taken place. It was wrong. And it's our responsibility to put it right. So that's what we're doing. We are going to compensate those who are harmed, and we're going to punish those who perpetrated. That's integrity. That's justice. And that is what the law should be for, not legal to protect the perpetrators and lie.
The defendants contend that allowing the case to proceed would set a dangerous precedent.
The defendants say that allowing the Psy-Op to proceed would set a dangerous precedent. Legally, it's a dangerous precedent, isn't it? Yeah, commercially, this is dangerous for us, isn't it?
Potentially opening the door to challenges of other historical sports.
Oh, because it would open the door to challenges of Abu Dhabi 2021. Yeah, so Nick, present a shit case that will get thrown out of court, because otherwise it might open the door to challenges of Abu Dhabi 2021. Do you see how important this Massa case is? Do you see how important you make everybody in this world aware of the corruption in the British legal system for this Massa case? Share the shit out of this. Expose the corrupt British justice system. Expose it. It is so important. This affects our lives, not in just the Formula One forum. Anybody that is campaigning on social media for social justice, expose this to them. Obviously, we're this far into this video now, right? And so people, until they actually know, they won't have got this far, so they won't realise the importance of this. But if you've made it this far, please share it with people and explain to them so that they know what they're watching, just how important this is. We need to expose this. We're not going to get this exposure through the media. The media is controlled by the establishment. The establishment is protecting the means and the wishes of those with the financial control. It is corrupt. The only way we can demonstrate this to people is by sharing them this and getting them to see it in social media, and that puts the pressure on these corrupt bastards to show that their game is up. And now there's no hiding place. And make no mistake, they will try and silence me. They will try to silence me. So, share, share, share. Make other people see what's really going on here.
Sporting outcomes. A significant 3-day hearing took place in late 2025, where lawyers for both sides presented detailed arguments on whether the case should be allowed to proceed to a full trial. The defendants' legal teams argued that the case should be thrown out, while Massa'S team countered that the alleged fraud and cover-up negate the time bar defence. Following this hearing, the presiding judge has reserved judgment.
Oh, reserve judgment. We need to go away and pretend that we're considering this.
This means a decision on whether the case will be dismissed or allowed to move forward is currently pending. The outcome of this preliminary ruling is crucial, as a dismissal would end Massa'S legal challenge.
It's crucial, isn't it? It would end Massa'S legal challenge, right? Make Massa a laughing stock of the world, wouldn't it? They don't care about that. They might have paid him off anyway. This is what's going to happen, Felipe. You're going to lose. We'll give you a bit of money anyway. Just like Michael Massey. Don't worry, Michael. We're going to just fire you. We'll give you the money. Just shut the fuck up. Shh. It's a legal device to silence you so you don't say anything about the fraud that you've been party to. Legal device, to pervert the course of justice. Legal. Perverting the course of justice.
While a decision to proceed would escalate the case significantly. It is important.
It won't escalate the case significantly because Massa doesn't have a case. Massa didn't lose out. There is no case for Massa. The case is for everybody else. The case is for Lewis Hamilton, whose job to win that championship was made harder by Bernie Ecclestone covering it up. The case is for Timo Glock, who suffered death threats and his family suffered abuse. The case is for Heifeld and Kovalainen. The case is for every one of those teams that lost out financially and all of the employees of those teams. That's what the case is. So why is our legal expert presenting it this way? Because it will get thrown out this way. And if it gets thrown out this way, that sets the legal precedent that you can't challenge the FIA. They're their own entity. They're their own tyranny that you can't challenge, everybody. Understand that. Understand that. Oh, but we'll bring Lewis Hamilton's name into this to undermine his accomplishments in his career. Yes, the man that's probably the most valuable global marketing asset will seek to discredit that. Why are you doing that, Nick? Do you understand the financial implications of doing that, Nick? Is this likely to impact and harm Lewis Hamilton's image, Nick? And how much is that worth, Nick? How much is that worth? I mean, defrauding him out of an 8th world championship, I think has probably, We'll get to that bit. I've done my expert calculations. I think that has defrauded Lewis Hamilton out of somewhere in the region of £888 million in losses and damages. But we'll come to that.
To note that Lewis Hamilton is not a defendant in the case. However, as the current holder of the 2008 title, the outcome of the lawsuit has direct implications for his first World Championship. Massa'S legal.
Oh, we're bringing into question the validity of Hamilton's first World Championship. Are we, Nick? Have you got solid grounds to do so, Nick? And project that as being up for debate in law, have you, Nick?
Legal action is focused on the alleged failures of the government.
But we're not focusing on that, everybody. We're not focusing on that, but we just think that Felipe Massa should be the recognised champion. But we don't want to strip it from Lewis. But in saying such a thing, you're still discrediting Lewis, aren't you? Clearly you are.
Governing bodies and former F1 leadership, not on Hamilton's performance or conduct. The defendants argue that reopening the case would set a dangerous precedent, potentially leading to challenges of other historical results.
The defendants think it will display a dangerous precedent, leading to challenges of other results. Oh, the FIA don't want their previous results challenging, do they? You see, if you weren't worried about that, that wouldn't be one of the concerns you'd present in a legal case, would it? If you conducted your sport with integrity, then maybe there'd be no reason to want to guard against the results that were achieved in your championships being challenged. Why would they challenge them? Oh, you'd challenge something if you thought something was wrong. In order to challenge it, you'd have to have evidence that something was wrong, and that evidence would show whether or not it was wrong. And then the evidence would have to display that the governing body, the way that they handle it, was wrong. And if that's the case, the rightful thing to do is to correct it, isn't it? But the FIA want the law to be that, oh, we don't have to correct it now because we've decided, we've got the law to say we're not correcting it now. That's perverting the course of justice, isn't it? Through the notion of trying to invoke law to pervert the course of justice. That's the British legal system, everybody. The world, you need to know how corrupt Great Britain is. The world, the people of Britain need to lose all confidence in the British legal system because it is entirely corrupt.
And undermining the authority of the FIA. The judge's upcoming decision will
undermines the authority of the tyrant. I mean, they've already made themselves their own courts.
Will determine whether the legal challenge to the 2008 World Championship will continue to a full trial, a process that would require extensive disclosure of internal documents and communications from the time. Potentially,
simply, Abu Dhabi 2021, it would require the disclosure of the camera that was within race control. Because there was footage of there's photographs or stills, which appeared to be camera footage of Michael Massey sat in race control with at least 10 people that all form part of race control. Let's get the camera footage of that, evidence of what was taking place in race control as they were fixing the outcome of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Legally, we've not shown that the world. We can quite simply evidence the truth unless you conceal the evidence. Criminals concealing the evidence of their crimes. So how do we adjudicate on the crime? Well, we demonstrate what is clearly evident, what they showed us, the validity of what they showed us, which wasn't valid. And then what then ensued? The steward's decisions, which weren't valid. The media presentation of everything, which gaslighted and wasn't valid. Oh, on the balance of probability using the lady scales of justice, what is right and what is wrong? And is that a close balance? Is it close? Is it nearly 50-50? Or is all the weight of wrongdoing down there at the bottom and everything saying that this is all corrupt. What's justice, everybody? What's justice?
Actually revealing further details about the decision-making process in 2008 and 2009. The case is a test of whether the sport's legal framework can...
So it's a test case, isn't it? Of the sport's legal framework.
accommodate a claim of historical fraud.
Can accommodate a claim of historical fraud. So it's a test case to decide whether the legal framework can accommodate a claim for historical fraud. So it's a Psy-Op. It is a Psy-Op. It's a Psy-Op that they're going to throw out to try to say that you cannot take us to court for Abu Dhabi 2021. That's exactly what it is.
The financial claim of £64 million, $82 million, represents the estimated lost earnings, sponsorship opportunities, and career value Massa attributes to being denied the World Championship title.
Yeah, I've lost £64 million as a result of coming second in that championship. I came second because my team left the hose in there. Nothing I could have done. But now give me 64 million. And the answer's no, Felipe. I understand you're disappointed, but actually, you weren't harmed in that way. Others were. No focus on that. Because you weren't harmed, the case gets thrown out. So the test case becomes, yes, we shouldn't be engaging in this sort of thing. This destroys confidence in the sport when we get these spurious claims like this, doesn't it? So let's make sure we don't get claims like this again. Yes, you're not allowed to challenge the FIA like this. The principle of finality, a cornerstone of integrity, everybody.
This figure is based on expert analysis of the financial difference.
Expert analysis? What kind of expert analysed this? Was it Nick DeMarco, the expert? Did he analyse it?
Between being a world champion and a runner-up in Formula.
Yeah, the difference between being a world champion and a runner-up. So Felipe wants the difference between being a world champion and a runner-up, but you don't get that unless you are a world champion, Felipe, and you're not a world champion. Just how it is. As our legal expert done the expert calculation as to what the difference is between being an 7-time world champion and an 8-time world champion, setting the outright record for the most number of championships ever won in this sport. Okay, doing so by coming back in a season whereby the other competitor was given everything, being allowed to break the rules, crashing out of the races, crashing off track, right? Getting away with it without penalty, and Hamilton still overcame all that. What would that have impacted Lewis Hamilton's global marketing appeal by? Extra sponsorship deals, extra deals on his contract, bonuses with Mercedes, deals that he would go to other teams as a reigning 8-time world champion. How would that have then affected his career? How would it have affected his career if the governing body wasn't corrupt and then enabled Red Bull to remain in the 2021 championship after they'd breached the cost cap, allowed Red Bull to keep their 2022 results when that 2022 car was illegal because it was developed under that cost cap that they breached, that their 2023 car being a development of that cheap car, that when they did discover in 2022 the flexi plank that then got dressed up as it's a anti-porpoising now regulation. We clarify the regulations for the teams that are cheating, not disqualifying. We're just clarifying the regulations, giving them 4 more races to carry on using that cheat that they're not allowed to do. A movable body part, which the regulations still say you're not allowed to have, but they did. Adrian knew his genius, obviously. Asymmetric braking was 2024, wasn't it? Yeah, nothing to see here. The FIA, the governing body, not penalising Red Bull, enabling them to cruise to all them championships. not penalising certain drivers for the infringement that they made due to FIA corruption. Well, yes, no, we can't undermine the integrity of the sport by then going back and exposing that all of these results are manufactured and fraudulent. No, that would compromise the integrity. That would harm the money side of things. So we need to invoke legal for protection, don't we? Don't we?
Formula One. The damages sought are a key component of the legal action, reflecting the perceived scale of the injustice.
The perceived scale of the injustice. Oh, these people haven't got a clue. When you defraud a global population of £108.7 million, how much compensation per person is that? Oh, I think the Federal Reserve is going to have to add a few more zeros onto the global money that's so-called money that's floating around the system. But we won't do it that way, because all it'll do is devalue it for everybody, and BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street will still benefit from everything. So that's not the way to do it. There's a different way, which we'll have to make sure our justice system changes to make sure that that's achievable. But don't you worry your little heads just yet on that. That's to come.
F1 community now awaits the court's decision, which will have significant ramifications for the historical record and the legal precedents governing the sport. The case highlights the tension between
test case to try and absolve themselves from ever being challenged about Abu Dhabi 2021 and all the corruption that we're seeing in the sport to this day. That's what it is. It's a test case, it's a Psy-Op, and it's designed to fail for Massa, and it's going to fail, and it's going to ensure that the FIA have this legal device from protecting themselves from being challenged. That is exactly what it is.
Sporting integrity and the legal finality of championship results. Massa'S current action is an attempt to use new evidence.
The Matrix was all around you, Neo.
Stone's admission to reopen the matter and challenge the finality.
But that's their rules, you see. That's their rules in this construct that we live in.
Of the 2008 season. The final decision on whether the case proceeds to a full trial will be a landmark moment for Formula One's governance and history, potentially redefining the scope of historical challenges in the sport. Should the court rule in Massa'S favour, it would,
which they won't, because I've just destroyed Massa'S case,
create a new legal pathway for challenging historical sporting outcomes.
So therefore, there'll be a new legal pathway for challenging historical sporting outcomes. Oh, there isn't one now. That one's been closed off due to the Massa case. Please share this content. Please share this to wake people up to the true reality of what is going on. If you can articulate this better than I can, if you have the ability to present this, please do. If you can apply this set of circumstances to something else, because many people are not interested in Formula One. You talk about Formula One, they'll just switch off. Yeah, not interested in that. Apply the dynamics that I'm exposing about the British legal system and what it's actually there for, just how corrupt it is, and that it's not there for justice, for the protection of the wealthy elite. It's all bullshit. It's all a contrivance, and this case is a bullshit contrivance to absolve the FIA, Formula One, Liberty Media of consequence for their actions. The tools of the empire, the circus to keep us all entertained, to keep us mind conditioned, that they make money out of. And now they are trying to use law to prevent them from ever being held to account for their fraud. Please share it. Please, please, please share. People need to wake up. Thank you for your time.